Hey, good people, how you doing? Welcome to the Armchair Analysts. As always, it is yours truly, Michael Kwambo, and joining me from Dallas, Texas, Kibui. But how you doing?
Doing all right. A little lethargic, but we have to make this work. So let's go.
Yeah, I guess it's true what they say: show up every day, no matter how you feel.
That's true.
Now, the Six Nations is on with us from this Friday, 31st of January. It runs all the way until the 15th of March. Excited to see the return of the first major rugby championship that I interacted with in my
Mm.
rugby life. And, can't wait to see how it goes. And just before we continue, this sounds like a really strange kind of affiliation for the Six Nations. The other day I was discussing with Walter Orangi, which
Mhm.
team do I support? I'm already putting it out there because of my first interactions. I found myself supporting England because that's the first team I was introduced to. Much as I shifted allegiance to the All Black on the
Uh-huh.
global stage, I'm an England guy for the Six Nations, and
Okay.
those are my opening salvos for this preview.
I've always been partial to the French, going back to the days of Ntamak and Olivier Magne in the 90s. So I've always been a French fan. I've always, I've never really supported English sides in any sport, even though I watch the Premier League religiously. So France is my side. That's my international side. The Wallabies are my team, but if I'm looking Northern Hemisphere, I'm going to support France.
Yeah. And, as it so happens, France and Wales play in the opening fixture of this year's Six Nations. That game kicking off on Friday afternoon for people in the States, Friday
Mhm.
evening for people in the rest of the world. France, buoyed by the return of Antoine Dupont. Remember, he took time off to join the
Mhm.
Sevens program, and it was successful. Medaling at the Olympics. Can he be the guy to steer a French revolution on match day one and probably throughout the tournament? Sounds a bit preemptive, but let's just talk with match day one.
Yeah, he went, led the French side to the gold medal, nonetheless, right? And people will say, well, he didn't do everything, and they already had a great squad, but there were a couple of games or moments in the quarter and the semis where he lifted them, like his brilliance just lifted them, and I think that transcends into the full side, and it gives them a lift when they know that their little general is on the field. He may be under 6 foot tall, but the guy plays like the biggest person on the field. Pair him with Roman and Tamak coming back to the full cap as the 10. That 9-10 axis is going to be dangerous, and I think their pack is raring to go, and they have the depth on the bench. I'm expecting an absolute beating on Friday. I'm expecting 30 point plus beating on Friday. So that's my prediction for the opening.
Yeah, I'm also looking at a match in which the French are going to defeat the Welsh. Although the Welsh, if you look at it, rebuilding after a difficult phase, they lost 12 games last year. The first time in history that they've gone through a calendar year without registering a single victory.
I think it's going to be much of the same this year. They're in a full rebuild. They've gone back to Gatland, and there's a feeling of apathy and just like the deja vu with what's going on with the side. They don't seem to have the big men to lead the squad. They don't seem to have carriers or like impact players. Everybody who's coming in is just like a good role player, and they need like three or four impact players, two or three in the pack, one or two in the backs. And if you look at the squad, it's really thin on experience, very light on caps, and I think that they're going to really struggle this season. I I'll give you my prediction for the end of the season, but it's going to be really rough on Wales. What are your thoughts?
I agree it's going to be rough on the Welsh side as well. I know that the problems within the Wales rugby setup run deeper than the national team. Just reading through a lot of publications that touch on Welsh rugby, they talk about a whole problem with the Welsh rugby system, the whole ecosystem. There isn't much in terms of growth and development in the grassroots. And as a result, you don't have many quality players coming through. And they are forced to look for players of Welsh heritage rather than, come up with a squad that they have built over the years, and it's beginning to show. And like you said, this game is going to be a beating for the Welsh. Consider also the fact that they're playing away. France will be raring to go in this one.
You look at Gatland talking to reporters about, Toby Faletau being rushed back and he'll almost be ready next week. Toby Faletau played in like two Lion series 8 years, no, 7 or 8 years ago. So this guy is well past his prime. The fact that you have to lean on a heavily injured Toby Faletau to come back into your side, that kind of speaks to the lack of growth with your squad as a whole. He should be somebody that's in the wings to kind of give you that experience. He shouldn't be the guy that you're counting on to be a starter to lift your squad and to make an impact. So kind of like with New Zealand Sevens, I think there's recruitment issues. Their main squads like Cardiff and the Dragons, they have players that are coming through the system, but they just don't seem to have that punch. You compare them to the Irish counterparts, and they just seem to be a step or two behind. So hopefully Welsh rugby can rediscover their glory days. Again, it starts at the grassroots level, and they're going to have to probably tear that whole thing down and rebuild it, find funding to make it a more attractive sport, and have a team built over the next 4 or 5 seasons. So.
Yeah, now let's go to Saturday's fixtures. And there too, there's the early kickoff, Scotland against Italy. The Scottish teams, or actually the Glasgow Warriors, doing quite well in the European Rugby Champions Cup. They are the defending champions, if I'm not wrong, but doing quite well. The expectations for the Scottish is that they will be looking to break into the top two, and they need to start well against an Italy team that has been, just knocking on the doors there and is no longer considered as an also run. I do see the Scots winning this game. It would be one of those, those like 26-13 kind of scores, a competitive match, but with the Scots just having the upper hand.
They suffered heartbreak last year at the death when the wonder try that Capuzzo scored, and the two previous games were a bit of a blowout, like you said, about a 2-score win, a nice clean 2-score win. I expect them to go back to that, revert back to type, even though they're missing their captain and their talisman in the middle, the Australian under-20 former star Sione Tuipulotu. He's out injured, but they have enough numbers there. They have Van der Merwe, Finn Russell, they have Fagerson in the pack. 1 through 15 plus the bench, they've got more than enough to go and take that game. And I expect that to be a solid win too. So.
And what do you expect from Italy, much as you're looking at a solid result from the Scots?
I think it's going to be a tight game till about maybe 50-55, and then you run out of gas. They have retained majority of the same team. Gonzalo Quesada has a nice system. They play attractive flowing rugby, and they're not carrying many injuries. So there should be some continuity there with the squad. And I expect them to push Scotland till that 3-quarter mark. And then the Scots quality should just kind of push them over the edge and get them an extra score or two late in the game. How about you?
Yeah, I'm also expecting the game to be close up to, for me, I like saying minute 60, which really isn't minute 60. But, when you're heading into the final 20 minutes of the second half, I think you've emptied the tank there. And the team that is sharper, both physically and mentally, carries the day. And for me, it's looking like Scotland, and they will have the edge. Like I said, 2-score result, 26-13 or thereabouts. And this should be a good start for the Scots. Now let's go to the third game of the afternoon. It is the biggest match of match day one. Ireland against England. Ireland, the defending champions, they won it in 2023, 2024. They'll be looking for a strong start in 2025.
Yes, game of the week, and England are ready to go. They've already put out their lineup early, a day or so early. The interesting thing for me with their lineup is the twins are starting, Tom and Ben Curry, and they're very similar players. So they're both fetchers and pilferers, and I'm wondering if that's going to leave them a bit light on the carries, where you need somebody in the back row who's going to be the enforcer and the carrier. You have your fetcher. Ben Earl carries very well, so he's starting at 8. And then my other question is Borthwick going to trust Marcus Smith to finish the game? They had a couple of games last season where they were in control, and he pulled Smith off to bring Ford on to kind of settle the ship and to calm everything down. And so the question is, does he trust the people in the key spots to finish a game versus overthinking it? So that's going to be my question for England. What are your thoughts on how that game's going to go, and where do you think the final whistle, who's going to be on the right side of the final whistle?
For some reason, I do feel Ireland do have the edge over England for a lot of reasons. Like you said, the tinkering from Steve Borthwick, especially when your team is in comfortable situations. For the Irish, they have the pedigree. They've shown it over the past 2 seasons. And it's not for any... it's not by mistake that they were at some point the number one ranked team in the world, showing all that quality, that consistency. And I think they're going to have that edge against England. However, looking at the English and just reading the English rugby publications recently, Borthwick is talking about adopting the same spirit that Rassi Erasmus has adopted for the Springboks, in terms of not really the 6-2 bench split, but more in terms of like leaving everything on the field. And it would be interesting to see how his charges execute this on Saturday. Remember, he's also changed the leadership group, Maro Itoje coming in as the new captain. Probably this change of leadership comes with a change of tone in the way England approach this game.
Yeah, I expect Maro to lead from the front. He's very vocal. He's always around the ball and ruck play. So I think he's a great leader. He was a great leader at the U20 level. I think he's going to do the same at this level. And I think ultimately the matchups are what's going to be key here. Tyke Furlong, probably one of the best number 3 in the world, is not going to be playing this weekend. He's out injured, and so that gives England maybe a chance to attack Ireland at the scrum. I think that is going to be a vicious battle up front between the two packs. And Ireland, even though they've been one of the best 2 or 3 sides in the world in the last 2 or 3 years, I feel like they're in a bit of a transition. Prendergast is the young fly half that they have to blood and give him an opportunity to grow, because that's basically, I think he's going to be their fly half for the World Cup. So they're gonna, I think maybe they start Prendergast, and we'll see. We'll see when the lineup comes out. But they have the firepower in the back line. They have the carries in the middle of the field, and they have a very strong bench. So I'm expecting Ireland home field advantage to kind of just nip this England side. But I think England will push them all the way till the very end. It might be just something as simple as a penalty at the death that'll separate these sides.
And if England push them right to the death, it'll be typical of England's matches over the past 2 seasons. They've been winning their games by either a single score or a single point. And I mean, should they claim the result, it will be them sticking to the script. Now, we've talked about England. I think let's look at each team's chances, starting with England. For me, the main theme of England, remember last year, it was tight, nerve-wracking games, apart from the blowouts against Japan. All the other games, like I said, were sorted out by single-figure margins. Do you know that in 2024, their wins in the Six Nation were by margins of 3 points against Italy, 2 points against Wales, and 1 point against Ireland? I'm wondering, is that the kind of form you want to take into the Six Nations, and does it make you a contender? What do you think?
I don't think it makes them a contender. I think that they will end up being third this series. just because of the schedule and everything. You have them going away to Ireland. That's a tough ask. They host France. That's also, I think, hosting, like playing France home and away. That's one side that's kind of immune to that home field advantage. They kind of just play with a reckless abandon. You know what you love about the French, just the flair, the aggro, and I think that England will end up coming third in this Six Nations. That's my prediction for England.
Yeah, well, I look at them probably finishing, obviously not winning, but finishing second. And then also, I just pulled up another interesting statistic from 2024. Do you know that they trailed at halftime in all of their five matches? And that it marked the first time that they'd been behind at the break in every game of a campaign since 1974. That is not encouraging news for a team that has championship ambitions. Again, I like referring to us having played competitive sport and knowing the advantage of taking a lead right from kickoff, because this issue of digging deep is a gamble that can backfire bad.
Yeah, digging, you always want to start fast, right? Even if it's getting a couple of penalties on the board, just kind of get that nervousness out of your system. When you're chasing a game, you have to risk things. When you risk, you stretch yourself. That's when you're susceptible to counterattacks. So the only downside for England is they're missing Feyi Waboso. They're a fabulous new winger from injury. But they have the new Harlequin, Caden Murley, who's going to be on one wing. And then they have Freddie Stewart and Tommy Freeman. So they have an exceptional back three who are going to attack. If Ireland don't get their kick chase right, they're going to be in serious trouble, because James Lowe isn't a very fast winger. He's probably closer to center speed than he is winger. So they're going to have to be very intentional with their kick chase and the depth on those kicks. Otherwise, it could be Ireland chasing that game. So from broken play.
As we, finish up with England, who do you see being star players for England, players who can carry them through the campaign?
I think Ben Earl is going to keep on shining. Marcus Smith, Caden Murley is a very wily, physical winger. He's undersized, but he's fast. He's very physical. He does work in the tight. So those are the two people. Those are the three people I think are going to carry them. Their front row, Cowan Dickey's, he's all right, but I don't think anybody in the tight five is really going to outplay themselves. They're going to do their job. So for me, it's going to be Ben Earl, Marcus Smith, and Caden Murley, who are going to be their MVPs for this campaign, barring any injuries. What are your thoughts?
I'd like to throw in Ollie Lawrence, because I feel he's coming into the gap that was left by Mani Tuilagi. He is lethal both on attack and defense, and he can play at both 12 and 13. And I think if he stays fit, he will be a key element, a key player for Steve Borthwick and for England throughout the Six Nations. Now, France, they have welcomed back Antoine Dupont. I think that's the biggest name. Of course, a few injury concerns for them, but that's neither here nor there. The question is, can Dupont lead, quote unquote, a French revolution at the 2025 Six Nations?
I 100% believe he can. For me, pound for pound, the best player in the world today. So Dupont, I'm expecting in Tamac to have a massive Six Nations. And then in the back line, BL Bieri, the electric winger. Up front, Gregory Aldrit is a very consistent number 8. And then maybe Pito Movaka to have a very good tournament as well. So those are my bolters for the French side. Do you concur with that?
I absolutely concur with that. Those guys will be crucial for the French, and it's interesting the way the French play under Fabien Galtier, using his big men to create space for his gas men through and through. It's rapid rugby, but it's typical of the French. I think it's just that they've put. I don't know how to phrase this. They've put some structure to their chaos.
Is structure in their chaos, 100%. And I think you've described it perfectly. He's using his forwards. They have very good hands across the board from 1 through 8 and the bench guys, and he's gone for a pretty solid bench split as well. So all those guys have really good hands. There's a young prop who's going to come off into the second half, called Colomb. Big lad, very soft hands, very vicious in the carry. So that's somebody else who he'll get a cameo at the end of the game, probably a good 20-30 minutes, but you will notice him. And so yes, Gaultier has his forwards doing that heavy lifting, bashing up, carrying offloads, and then by the time that ball comes out after they've flooded that first gain line, there's very little you can do when Ntamak and Dupont and company have front foot ball. You're going to be in trouble the whole game. So I think that was a perfect way for you to describe that.
Yeah, and then also, as we talked about the players, there's the 21-year-old Louis Biel. He's already scored 10 tries in 14 appearances. And, I was just looking at some statistics. He led all Tier 1 nation players in 2024 in line breaks. That is a scary statistic to have, and that is a useful player to have in your side.
100%, and that's byproduct of what we talked about. The second you flood the gain line, the team has to collapse and they have to push back in. So when you have people sucked in, and credit to BL for taking those opportunities, he's not overthinking it. He's doing what he's supposed to do. You give him the ball and he just goes. So I expect him to probably be top try scorer for the tournament.
Do you see France winning the Six Nations?
Yes. I think they're going to go unbeaten.
Okay.
That's not even my bias.
That's your bias. I will go the top 2 position, and that definitely sees them obviously among the favorites, them and Ireland. Now, there is Scotland as well. Scotland, wow, it's been great to see the Scots grow, become competitive. They are looking for a solid finish, and can they be the dark horses in 2025?
I don't think so. I think that they will push everybody very close, but it's just fine margins. I think they'll be between them and England, I think third and fourth, although I think they'll end up fourth, because I think England, I think Borthwick has built a solid platform. And I think they're just a bit more electric than Scotland is, barring Duhan van der Merwe. So for me, Scotland end up fourth.
Yeah, they end up fourth. And then again, also looking at their 2024 statistics, they lost all their matches in the sixth. Not all the outcome of all their matches, win or lose, was really close. It was actually a single figure. It shows you that, if you were to look at it analytically, they were within touching distance of the Six Nations title. Is this something that they can build on going forward?
I think they've had some turnover in the pack where some of their mainstays, like the former Wallaby at the back, I'm trying to remember his name right now, but it's just not there. He plays 6 and 8. So some of the mainstays in their pack are gone. There are young people stepping in. Johnny Gray is coming back from his self-exile, playing in France for a couple of seasons, but he's back now. So expecting him to have a big game, 70 plus caps. He's the experienced guy. So I'm expecting him to have a big game, but I think they don't have the continuity that maybe England has, and that's going to be the challenge for them. Losing Tuipulotu, I think we can't understate how much it is to lose your talisman in the middle of the field. You and I know, 10, 12, 13 axis is the most important, just from an offensive and defensive perspective. So the person filling in at 12 has huge shoes to fill, and I don't think that filling in last minute is going to be to their benefit. So that's where I think Scotland's going to suffer.
Yeah, and then looking at an interesting statistic for the Scots, they have either been fourth or fifth on 5 out of 6 occasions in the Six Nations. They were fifth in 2019, fourth in 2020, 2021, and 2022, third in 2023, and fourth in 2024. And that aligns with your prediction of them finishing fourth.
Give them fourth again, 25. Kulayo.
So, to sound biblical, so we tell Scotland, go forth and play rugby.
Yes, I endorse that one. All right, wooden spoon. What do you feel? What's on your mind? Who's gonna take the wooden
Oh,
spoon?
it's gonna be Wales. It's gonna be Wales. When you lose 12 games in a row, that is a dent in your confidence. It doesn't matter what you do. It
Oh
doesn't
my God.
matter if you bring the Oteros, as we call them. Look, you're beaten. There has to be a reboot, and I can see Warren Gatland really trying to rejig the side. He's quietly calling up some players and dropping others, but like we said, the systems are fundamentally flawed in Wales, and it's beginning to show. It's not to take anything away from Warren Gatland. He is a great coach. He
Yeah.
worked and got the best out of Wales with the likes of Dan Bigger. But unfortunately, the system is just not working for him. So they are strong favorites to take the wooden spoon. Because if you look at it, Italy looking so much stronger, so much better than them. And that brings us to Italy, I guess. And what we think of their chances.
I think Italy will come fifth. I agree with you that Wales will be the wooden spoon holders. The game breakers that they have in their side, the hooker Dewey Lake is injured, so he's not even playing, and he's a phenomenal player and a leader. Jack Morgan, their talisman at the seven, and Wainwright. So the back row will kind of try and hold up their end of the bargain. The tight five is gonna have a really really rough series. They're gonna have a rough series. The backs, there's just other than Tompkins at maybe 13 and Liam Williams who's just coming back, so we don't know how fit Liam Williams is gonna be. We know how good he is, but coming back from an injury and fitness, I don't know how much of an effect he's gonna have on the game. You go and you look at Italy's side. You have Ioani, you have Lina's injured, but the pack is pretty much intact. Capuzzo, you have Brex at the tight head. So you have the core of what you had the last couple of seasons with the same coach and the same system. So for me, there's continuity there. That's going to trump what Wales have to offer, and they're playing at home. So they play Wales at home in the second game of the season. So Wales are going to take a beating on Friday. Then they have to travel the next week and play Wales on their ground. So I think Wales fresh. They don't pick up major injuries. They'll get that win in the second week, and then Wales are in serious trouble for the rest of the whole year.
And also looking at Italy, they've been a team to play expansive rugby. But if you've watched them probably over the last season or so, they've also become smarter. They've become pragmatic and taking situations as they come. And again, one interesting statistic from 2024 about Italy is that they were the only team to secure 30 plus turnovers in the 2024 Six Nations. That shows you the kind of threat they are. And with the fact that they are adapting to the style under Argentine great Gonzalo Quesada, shows you that they could, yes, finish fifth, but also run Ireland, Scotland, even France, run them scared, when they play in those matches. And it will be great to see the Italians feature in the Six Nations.
They're tough out. They're not what they were 3 or 4 seasons ago, and they're gonna push you no matter who it is. Gone are the days where Italy were just there to make up the numbers and get a check. They've been very competitive. They've had a couple of big upsets. I expect them to push everyone, but ultimately, I think they'll end up fifth on the log, which is no shame. The key here for them is to make sure that they're competitive in every game, maybe pick off 1 or 2 wins in the season. That would be a good outing.
And then also, there's one more interesting statistic about Italy. They were admitted to the Six Nations in the year 2000. So this is their 25th anniversary of playing in the
I
Six
remember.
Nations, and I'm sure they'll want to celebrate it in style. Now, Ireland. We touched on Ireland as we were talking about that fixture between them and England. They
Yeah,
won it in 2023 and 2024. But remember, last year they were denied the Grand Slam because of that last gasp defeat to
yeah.
England. Had they done it,
One thing,
I think they would have been the first team in history to complete the back-to-back Grand Slam in the Six Nations.
I agree.
tails up coming into this one. Do you think they can pull off the three-peat? Because I'll tell you, the three-peat is usually something quite difficult to pull off. The first one is you being on fire. The second one is you having the momentum, and the third one is pretty much just the experience. Been there, done that. Do you think they have the personnel and the mental fortitude to go back to back to back?
They do, and it's I think the most important thing for them is not to try not to think about it. When you tend to dwell on a goal like that, you don't need the mental weight in addition to the actual the games in hand. So you just take one game at a time. Don't focus on making sure that you win this. Don't worry about what's happening in the other games. You can only control what's within that field and on your practice fields, in your prep. That's all you can manage. So for them, they can definitely do it. France. I think France and England are the ones really standing in their way. But I wouldn't be surprised if they won a three-peat. I just don't think that this is their year.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to challenge, and like you said, France standing in their way. Yeah, so that's been it. We've looked at the Six Nations match, the one fixtures and our expectations, and definitely looking forward to catching up with you so that we can review what went down and obviously preview match day two.
Definitely, for sure. Thank you for having me on, guys. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you after the games this weekend. Cheers.
Definitely. Yeah, this has been the Armchair Analysts. Thank you for watching.